We're in the height of hurricane season right now, and it made us think, what preps do we have available? Are we prepared? Where are the things that we think we have, and how quickly could we get to them if we had an emergency? So we're going to do some thinking and talking and preparing in this video to find out what we need, where we're going to keep it, and how that's all going to work out if we do have a storm coming our way later on this year.
Hi, I'm Kevin from Hideaway Homestead. This is my wife Carol. We're in the height of hurricane season right now in the Central Florida area. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the stuff that we need to have to keep on hand in case we have some kind of emergency come up. And so we want to go over some of the things that we prepare for, and hopefully that will help you also.
Some of the resources that we have used are those from the National Hurricane Center or the Weather Channel, those kinds of places. And so we have followed their guidance to what to prepare. We would like to have everything ready ahead of time. So far we have not had warnings or any problems in our area this year, but you want to do these things ahead of time, before the long lines form, before the products are all off the shelves at Walmart and all your grocery stores, before you can't get gas or plywood or something like that. We're trying to think ahead, gather all of our stuff together so that we are ready and we aren't in the mad rush when a warning does come out.
We're going to talk today about several items that we try to keep on hand whenever there's some kind of a disaster in the making or something like that. In this situation, we're talking about hurricanes because that's what we get here in Central Florida. There are a lot of other places that get hurricanes as well, and we are in about the center of the state pretty much, about 50 or 60 miles from the coast. So we don't have to worry too much about flooding and the other things that other people have to deal with when they have a hurricane. So some of the things that we do is we keep several ways to have light here, and one of the things that we keep is a lantern. This is just a camping lantern, and it works off of this bottle of gas, and it hooks into the bottom. As you can see here, this just screws into the bottom, and you turn it up and light it. That's a good thing to have around. It's just a camping lantern. Another thing that we keep are these rope lights. These are solar powered. It has a little solar panel at the top right here. It has a little post that goes in it, and you can set it up and put it outside so it collects the sun. And then you can use these rope lights for pretty much anything. You can lay out a pathway with them. You can put them in your house, and if you're without power and you can't see to get down your hallway or something, you can lay them on the floor and see where you're going. That's a good thing to have around as well. Another good thing that we keep around is this little light right here. I believe we got this light from Home Depot. I keep it in my toolbox and use it when I'm doing construction work. And it's got a little adjustable thing on the back where you can set it to different angles and that sort of thing. That's a good handy thing to have. This is another good light that we bought. I believe we got this from Aldi. And it has the LED lights in here, and it also has a flashlight on the end. And so you can set it for whatever you need it to be. It has a hook where you can hang it up if you're working on something. And it also has on the back a magnet. If you've got some metal around that you can stick it to, and it holds it for you, and that way you don't have to keep trying to hang on to it when you don't actually have three hands. Another good thing that we have found that we like are these they look like a light switch. It has lights inside, and it works like a light switch. You just flip it on, and it comes on. And you can use this as a flashlight if you want to. For a long time, we carried these around when we didn't have power yet, when we were building the house, and we would just carry it around as a flashlight. It also has magnets on the back where you can stick it to something metal, and it has Velcro strips on the back where you want to stick it permanently. You could put a nail in the wall and hang it on here. So there's several different ways you could use that. It's a good thing. This is a little folding LED camping lantern. It flattens out into like a little small thing about this thin and about so big around, and then it opens up, expands. These are good to have around because you can stick it in your pocket and carry it anywhere you need to go. And then of course we've always got the standard flashlights, and we keep several of these around. We never know when we're going to need a flashlight to go out to the chicken yard or something at night or whatever. And so we keep lots of flashlights around. We also have matches, and we keep a lot of these matches around. There's a lot of these boxes around our house, small boxes like this as well as the bigger ones too. Another thing we use is this lighter, and I know you've all seen these, and you just push the button and flick the thing, and this one may be out of fuel, I don't know. But anyway, we use these a lot. We keep these around. We have several of those actually. Of course, if you're going to keep flashlights, you want to have extra batteries. We have AA's and AAA's because we have several different items that use batteries. We keep both sizes around. And we just buy these packs like this. I believe we got these at Walmart. And so we just make sure we keep lots of extras around. Another thing that we keep around here in Florida especially is what they call hurricane lanterns. These work off of a fuel. You put the fuel in this little bottom right here and then light it. And you can, again, you could hang this up if you needed to, where you can just carry it around with you to see where you're going. This is the same thing, it's just a larger version of it. You can buy the fuel in bottles, and you can get those at Walmart as well. And so you can always have light of some kind. One of the things we like to do when we go out, especially like to yard sales and that sort of thing, is we like to look for bargains, obviously. Actually, Carol's sister found this box full of candles at a yard sale somewhere, and she bought this for us, and she probably didn't pay about 50 cents or maybe $1, I don't even know, it wasn't very much. It's got several sizes of candles in here. These are good to have around. They're nice and cheap. And then we have other sizes as well. These are some smaller ones that were inside this box, and we have some of the little taller ones. But just different things like that. So we even have some little candle holders that we can stick those in. You can set them up. Just be careful whenever you do light candles. You don't want to set your house on fire or something like that. This is another little pack that I believe we got this from the Dollar Tree. And these actually work off of batteries. It just takes 2 batteries, and it shows on the back how to put them in. And then it has this little thing here that you can set them in so that you can set them up on a table somewhere. So this is a good thing to have if you don't want to have the wax and the smoke and all that sort of stuff around. Just get you some of these, and they work off just a little light bulb. It looks like a flame, but it's a light bulb. So anyway, this is just some of the things that we keep around to use for light sources whenever we have a hurricane or just when the power's out. I mean, it doesn't have to be a hurricane. But if your power goes out for any length of time, you're going to need to have some kind of something to see what you're doing.
One of the things that we always try to keep on hand is a supply of non-perishable food and water. The preparation people from the government agencies suggest that at least you need to have 72 hours worth of provisions. That is the assumption that that's how long it will take them to get to you if you are stranded or something like that. We have experienced hurricanes where we were without power for right at 7 full days, I think. And so the 72 hours was gone long before we got power back. And that was quite a test of our provisions, I suppose. Here we try to keep water in hand all the time. These particular jugs, if we can call them that, we call it Big Blue. He holds about 7 gallons, and we try to keep this full of fresh water all the time from the tap. We use these here at the Homestead for drinking water and for hand washing, those kinds of things. This comes right out of the tap. And then we also purchased this particular gallon-sized jug, came from the Dollar Tree, so I know it only cost us $1. It's supposed to be alpine spring water, so I'm sure you're quite impressed. Sometimes when they put out warnings or watches for hurricanes, the general public goes nuts and tries to buy up all the bottled water available. But you don't have to do that. I suggest that you do keep some water on hand, just in case you have a power outage or some other emergency that your water system goes down, something like that. But you can fill all the containers in your house They suggest that you fill your bathtub if it will hold water. You can use all of those containers. You don't have to have a 16-ounce bottle of water to go through for the 72-hour period. The experts talk about needing at least a gallon of water per person per day. So multiply that times the number of people in your household. But that is just for drinking. It does not include toilet flushing or bathing or hand washing or any of the other things that you might need to use water for during the day. They suggest that you should not use or reuse milk jugs because there is a bacteria that can linger in the plastic after the milk is gone, and that could affect your drinking water and your health. But you could very well use those milk jugs to store water that you're going to use to flush toilets or to wash your hands or something like that. So don't pass up those options, but don't wait and count on using milk jugs for your water storage. Your water can be stored in pots and pans and Tupperware or Rubbermaid, whatever brand you've got, and so you don't have to go out and buy water in preparation for a storm that you know is coming in the near future. We also, and we've mentioned in another video, I think it's called Lights Out, the types of non-perishable foods to keep on hand. And we always try to keep a lot of non-perishable foods on hand for whatever emergency. But now that it is in the official hurricane season for our area, we just try to pick up 1 or 2 cans of non-perishable items each week when we go to the grocery store. That way it doesn't cost you a fortune all at once, and you can sort of cycle through the things that are older or that you maybe forgot that you already used up. One thing that they say to make sure that you have is a can opener, a hand-operated can opener, because if you lose power and you only have a regular electric can opener, you aren't going to get into those cans very easily at all. We keep several can openers available, just in case. We can't find one or one breaks or something like that. The old adage that 1 is none and 2 is 1 kind of a thing. We like to have several available. We've also experimented with them. Some of them are very hard on my hands, and some of them just don't seem to work well. So try it out ahead of time. Make sure that you have several available that will help you to get those canned goods open. If possible, store up ice and frozen things well in advance of the storm. We like to freeze blocks of ice or large bottles of ice because they hold the frozen temperature a lot longer, and they can help to keep your fridge and freezer cold, or other things that you have out, they will also last longer. But make it a point that you are not going to open your fridge or your freezer unless absolutely necessary. Those appliances will hold the cold. I started to say hold the heat. Those appliances will hold on to that cold temperature and keep your food items safe for a good while. So if you don't open them, but every time you open the door, you're letting out that cold air and the cold temperature, and so your food will start to go bad a lot faster. One tip that someone has put around is to freeze a small cup of water and keep it in your freezer, and then put a coin on top of it. The dollar amount doesn't really matter on the coin. I've heard pennies all the way up to quarters, but you want a coin on the top. When you open your freezer after a storm or a long power outage, if that coin is no longer on the top, that means that the items in the freezer have thawed. But if it's still on top and you haven't opened your door very often to the freezer, that gives you an idea. You might not have lost all the food that's in there. So make a note. we're not going to open this fridge, we're not going to open this freezer, and now we have a way to know whether the food is still good or whether it's all been destroyed by a long-term power outage. Just a couple of tips.
One of the items we like to have around is a generator. If you lose power, these things can be lifesavers. Sometimes people buy the larger ones that power a whole lot of things. We have the smaller ones like this, and these work good too. It only has one plug on it to plug in one thing, but if you have an extension cord, you can probably plug more things into it. We like to keep these around especially for the refrigerator or the freezer or something that we don't want to lose cold stuff from. And whenever we've had our last hurricane that we had, we used this and we powered our freezer and refrigerator off of it, and it kept them cold until we could get power back on. This is a 2-cycle, which means it has to be mixed gasoline. We keep a little small gasoline can like this full of gas around, and you mix that and put it in there. This particular generator came from Harbor Freight, and like I say, there are bigger ones that are more expensive, and if your budget allows you to have a larger one, more expensive one, then that's great. If your budget is not to the place to where you can afford something that big, then these smaller ones work just as well. In fact, we have 2 of these, and we use these whenever we have to. You can take these I've taken them to construction sites and used there whenever I needed power and didn't have it available. So these are good little handy things to have around. They have a handle, you can carry them, and so that's a good thing to have. We just happen to have a small can. I keep a small one like this for the mixed gas. Now we also have larger cans, the bigger cans that hold 5 gallons that we keep gasoline in as well. We keep extra fuel around because whenever a hurricane is coming or some kind of a storm and there's going to be a power outage, if the power goes out, you can't get gas from a gas station because their pumps work off of electricity, and if you don't have power, you can't get any gas. So we suggest that you buy your gasoline ahead of time and store it in the bigger containers. You can also get the stable or stabil, whichever way you want to pronounce that word, that you can put into your gas. It's an additive that makes your gas last longer. So that's a good thing to have, and if you need to store it for any length of time, you're going to want to have some of that stuff around. One of the things that we like to point out to people is that if you're going to buy one of these generators, make sure you buy it ahead of time and try it out. You don't want to wait until there's a hurricane coming or some kind of power outage or something like that to try to figure out how to use one of these. You're going to want to use this ahead of time. Make sure that it works and you know how to work it, and make sure you just know everything about it before you just go get something like this and then try to do it at the last minute. It just doesn't work that way. Another thing that we need to point out also is the safety part of this. We've had people here in Florida in the past that whenever we had a hurricane that put these in their garage, and there were people here in our town that died from it because of the carbon monoxide poisoning. You cannot put one of these inside of a closed area. If you have one of these, make sure you put it outside where it's ventilated and the fumes from this can escape and it doesn't get in your house. Because if you put them in a garage or in any kind of an enclosed area and you're anywhere near that, asleep or watching TV or whatever, it's just not good. Carbon monoxide cannot be smelled. You can't smell it. You can't taste it. You won't know it's there. And so if you have that carbon monoxide in your house, you're not going to know it unless you have some kind of an alarm that will tell you it's there. So please, be cautious and make sure you read the warnings and the instructions that come with these things, and follow all the safety precautions that they give you, because they're there for a reason.
A couple of things you might want to consider also is how are you going to cook food while you are without power. We have another video that talks about cooking with a Coleman gas stove. We also have charcoal grills, we have gas grills, and there's a rocket stove that you could cook with. Kevin's going to do a video on the Kelly kettle that uses just tiny little twigs to heat water and to cook your food. There are several ways available that you can cook without electricity, but you need to always make sure that you have plenty of the fuel that will be required to use those methods. And also, even a gas stove might require that you have some kind of power to spark it or something like that. So check it out to make sure that you can use something before you're counting on it and then find out the hard way that it's not available. We will link to a couple of our videos where we talk about cooking with the Coleman stove, and also for what types of food to stockpile, to prepare, non-perishable foods, and those kinds of things on those videos. Something else that has been mentioned often on the different websites is to have some type of entertainment that does not require power, electrical power. So for us, Kevin and I have a couple of card games available and good old Farkle. If you have children, younger people, that you might want to even set aside a particular favorite toy or game that they can play with, because most of them are used to having their devices that can entertain them, and there aren't going to be enough devices to go around, I'm afraid. Which brings me to remember to charge up everything you can, every battery possible. Have everything charged up before the power goes out, so that you do have a way to communicate, or if others have power, that you will be able to do some things. They also say that texting uses less power and is often more available during power outages widespread, because it doesn't take as much bandwidth or something like that. So plan to text and let people know where you're going to be. Remember, you may not be able to charge up your devices for quite a while, so even if you're addicted to them, please save your power until it's absolutely necessary to be used. I do suggest that each person, as you think about storms and damage and stuff like that, that you check out the websites from the government agencies. They have a 72-hour plan, and then as it gets closer, then they've got for the 48 hours, and all the way down to all the things that you might want to take into account. As Kevin said, we don't worry about flooding or storm surge where we are in the state, but if you might have to have evacuation routes and those kinds of things, check it out well in advance so that you aren't caught unprepared when a storm comes. And some storms we don't have warning about, so having all these preps in an accessible place are a good thing to do.
One of the things that you need to keep in mind is that whenever you've got your supplies, you need to keep them all together. If you've got flashlights, you want to keep your batteries with the flashlights, obviously. If you have important papers, insurance papers, any kind of important paperwork that you might need in case your home gets destroyed or something like that, you're going to want to keep that stuff in a place where you can find it. It's a good idea, actually, for paperwork to put them inside of a Ziploc bag so that if there's rain, they don't get wet. Anything like that you will need in the event that something does happen and you have to file some kind of a claim with the insurance, you're going to want to have those papers and you're going to need to find them. Also, if you have a passport, make sure you keep that with them as well. You're going to need identification probably somewhere along the line. You're going to need to prove who you are or whatever the situation is. If you have a family with young children, you're going to want to keep the information for them as well. Diapers, formula, baby food, any kind of items like that you're going to need for the kids, you're going to need to keep that handy also and have that close by. The thing that you're going to want to have around is your medication. If you know there's a storm coming, if you can get the prescription filled and get more than what you are currently using, if your pharmacist will do that, go ahead and get those refilled again so that you've got extras in case something does linger on for a number of days and you can't get back to a pharmacy to get them refilled. That's one of the things that you're going to want to have. Another thing that we try to do as much as possible is to keep our vehicles gassed up. We try to keep at least a half a tank of gas, if not a full tank, pretty much, as much as we possibly can. Because if the gas stations aren't opening up and working, you're not going to be able to get fuel. So we try to keep them filled up as much as we can. This is just some guidelines that we go by. This is definitely not a total list of what you need or what you need to do or anything like that, but this is just to kind of get you started thinking, and your needs are going to be different from our needs in different situations. But this will just kind of give you an idea of some things that we think about. And you can also go online and research this information as well and find stuff on there, and they will give you a list of things that will maybe fit your needs better than what we've mentioned here today. So hopefully this was helpful to you in the event of some kind of a situation where you need to have provisions for a long period of time. One of the things that we like to do is we like to keep those big plastic totes, we call them, has a lid. It keeps your stuff dry, and it keeps it out of the sun if you need to be, and you can keep things in there, all sorts of stuff, paperwork, you can put food in it. We keep a lot of those around, and we like using those, and so they're real handy to have around. Another good thing about having those totes is if you need to pick that up and leave in a hurry, it's easy to do. You just grab that thing and out the door you go. Thanks for joining us here today on Hideaway Homestead. We hope this is good information for you. We hope we never have to use it, but if we do, then it comes in quite handy, and hopefully this is something that will help you in a bad situation. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner. Leave us comments. You can ask questions as well. If you have family and friends that might be interested in what we're doing, send our information along to them and let them see them as well. In the meantime, thanks for joining us here on Hideaway Homestead.